Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Intro to Coding series for Python. Today we are going to go over files. Hopefully this isn't a super long one, so let's just jump into it. All right, so files. What does this really mean? Well, basically what we're going to go over today is a way for your Python file to interact with other files on your computer. So when you actually interact with files in Python, you have to open up a file, and there's a specific type of way you can open up a file. So I'm going to paste them in here just so we can use them for reference. So when you open up a file using an R property, it means that you're going to read the file, and you're going to run into an error if the file doesn't exist. If you open up with an A, it means that you're going to append to the file, and it'll create the file if it doesn't exist. W opens it for writing, and it creates it if it doesn't exist. And X creates the file, and it throws an error if it already exists. So let's go really simple here and just go over reads. So we'll go file equals open cool.text, and we'll open it with R. Now we can run this, and you're going to see we're going to get an error. Okay, so we ran into an error here, so it's because the file doesn't exist. So what we can just do is just press Control N, or you can go to File, New Text File, and let's just write some things here. First line, second line, Jake is cool, fourth line. Nice. I think it's a pretty good one. And we will name it cool.text. And let's make sure we're in the same directory here. I think we are. And we can just save that there. Okay, great. Now when we run this again, we can see that we don't get an error, which is perfect. It works, but we didn't actually do anything with it, which is maybe not as cool. So let's actually read things from the file and print them out. So we're going to read lines from the file, and let's print file.read, and you can see there's some information here, but let's just do read for just like to start out, and let's see what happens. So we run our file. Oops, I added a thing there. Oh, and look at that, we get the entire file. Perfect. Another thing we can do though is we can actually read a specific number of characters. So say we want to read 5 characters, which is the input here. We can run that, and you can see we get first, and then we get a new line. But if we go back to our file here, you can see that it's first space line and then second line. So we actually read the first 5 characters, which was just first, and then the rest of this is printed out when we just when we did this. So this read. So another thing we can actually do, which is also maybe arguably more useful, is instead of printing out the rest of it, we can actually just print the entire line. So we can read out the entire line, and once we hit a new line, meaning if we go back to our example here, like a place where we pressed enter basically, it will read out that. So we can see we get line because that is the remainder of the line because we read the first here, and if we comment this out, we can run it and we'll get first line. So now if we copied this, we can see we get the first line, second line, third line. You will also note though that this is reading the line and the new, or like the enter key, meaning the new line. So if you don't want to get 2 lines here, you have to add in the end equals this, and then if we put this into each of these, then we get it spaced evenly, as expected. So another way we can do this though, is we're just going to open up the same file again, and we're going to use the R reading type to just read. If we want to actually just loop over all of them, we can actually just do for line in file, and then we can print the line. Pretty simple. So this is going to, this for loop will iterate over each line. Let's just comment out this here. Let's just comment out it all, just so that we don't get random output, and run. And we can see, again, if we wanted to add the end equals this, we get the exact same thing. So this is a little bit more useful, so you don't have to write each individual read. You can just kind of loop over every line and do some processing or whatever you may want to do on each line that you're reading. One important thing that you should always try to do whenever you're reading a file or writing to a file or anything like that is you should always close the file. So that means that when your program is finished reading it, your program will basically say, okay, I'm done reading it. I don't need to do anything with it anymore. All done. So you typically won't run into issues if you don't do this, but it's useful to do it because you will definitely not run into issues if you close it. So better safe than sorry. Alrighty, the next thing we're going to go over are writes and appends. So basically we're going to do the A's and the W's now. So or I guess we'll do W and A, just so that we can keep it in the right order, and we'll say that these are the R. All right, so if we go back up to here, we can remember that appends also create a file if it doesn't exist. So here we can actually create a whole new file. We'll call it nice.txt, and we'll open it with A. So we can write whatever we want to this file, but let's start out by writing using the write command, and this is a nice file. One thing that this will not do automatically is it won't add a new line. And in order to write a new line ourselves, basically meaning that we pressed enter, we don't press enter here because that will break our string, but we will press or add in a backslash and an N. And this is basically what a new line actually is. This is how a computer interprets a new line. So if we do this, it'll add a new line, and you won't even see this in our file. It'll just be as though somebody pressed enter when they were creating the file. So let's close this, and then let's go ahead and run and see what happens. Okay, so we printed out our other lines. So let's actually open up the file that we just created. It's called nice.txt. We'll open this here, and we can see, oh, this is a nice file. Perfect. Now, if we run this again, though, we're gonna get the same thing here. Let's just get rid of these. But if we go back to nice.txt, you'll notice that it added again because the file already exists when it does this. So it's just going to write a whole new file. It's appending to the file, adding something to the end of the file. So if we actually delete this file, so let's go to this and let's go ahead and delete nice.txt. I don't know why my computer's so slow right now, but weird. And we get rid of that. And then we run the file, it will create the file again. So if we go ahead and open it again, ta-da, we have, this is a nice file. Okay, perfect. Now, say we want to write multiple lines to a file. You can actually do that by passing it an array. So we can create a, let's do sentences, and first and second. And let's add a new line to each of these, just so that, you know, it's going to make lines. And we'll do file write lines, sentences. Now, because the file already exists right here, we're going to write this again, and then we're going to write each of these. So if we run this again, and we go back to our file, we can see we got, this is a nice file, first, second. And you'll also notice that even though this says write lines, it's not adding, or it does need the new line. So if we get rid of these, sorry about that. If we get rid of these and run this, you can see that these are actually connected. So we do actually need to add that new line in order for that to work properly. All right, so that's basically the same thing for writes. You can kind of just do the same thing. So let's go into creating files. So creates, or the X. So one thing that's important to know here is that if we do file nice.txt, and we try to create this file, and we run this, we run into an error because this file already exists. So one thing that you may actually want to do is import OS. And OS means the OS, as in the operating system for whatever operating system you're using. So Python understands how to interpret everything for each operating system. So one thing you can actually do here, because you don't want to run into errors every time you try to create this file. Yes, you could just open it using A. That's possible. But say you need to create 100 files, right? You might not want to actually do that and actually write to something or to each of them every single time. So it might be just easier to create it with the X. Sure, you could just open it with an A, which would create it, and then you close it. All done. Honestly, that's probably fine. But one way you could get around actually doing this, you don't even technically even need a reference to it if you're not going to use anything with it. But what you could do is you could put it within an if statement. So if os.path.exists, and then we're going to create nice.text, then we actually don't want to do anything, right? Because the file already exists. So we will just print file or nice.text already exists. And then we'll do an else, we create the file. So if we run this, we can get nice.text already exists. But if we go ahead and delete this nice.text so that this no longer exists, nice.text already exists. Oh, sorry, it's because we're creating it right here. Okay, let me do that one more time. And go. So this time the file, we didn't get any output, so the file now exists. So if we go back here, we can see that nice.text is there. And if we open it, we'll actually see that, well, it doesn't have anything because we didn't write anything to it. But hey, whatever, that's okay. It doesn't need to actually have anything. Cool. So this way though, no matter how many times we run this, it doesn't matter. It won't break our program. Another thing that we can do though, now that we have OS imported, is actually delete the file. So maybe we want to either create or delete the file every other time you run the program. So what we can actually do here is press os.remove and then whatever the file is. So if we do this and we have the file already here, then we run, and we look here, nice.text is now gone. Let me zoom in a bit here, I guess. Nice.text is now gone. And if we run again, and nice.text is back. It's back. Perfect. So I guess I could also say, or deletes. So you can actually do the same because we have OS created here. We can do the exact same, but with folders or directories. So if we say path exists MITRE, then if it exists, we can delete the directory using rmdir. And then if it doesn't exist, we can create it, makedir. And what do we call it? MITRE. So we'll do the exact same thing here. We'll run, we'll look here. We can see that we have MITRE. We no longer have the text. We run again. MITRE is now gone, but we have nice.text. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Okay, great. So now we know how to create files. We know how to create directories. We know how to remove files. We know how to remove directories. What else can we do? Well, one thing that you can actually do with this kind of skill set, I guess you could say. Let me just get rid of this nice.text because I think we're done with it for now. One thing we can actually do with this is actually basically create our own spreadsheet. So let's create a spreadsheet using what we've learned. I'm going to paste in something, a little bit of something here that I had pre-prepared, and we'll go over what we have here. Oh, and we need to import OS. And now we're all set. Okay, so the first thing we do here is we just have a Boolean set to false of whether the file exists or not. Then we check if the file exists. If it exists, we set the Boolean to true. Then we go ahead and open up the file. If the file does not exist, then the reason we need to know this is because we actually want to write the information, this information as the first part to the file. Then what we're going to do is have a while loop that is set to true. And we're going to get the name, we're going to get the age, your favorite color. And then if you enter Q into any of these, we're going to break. And then we're going to basically create a simple line with a comma between each of these, and then we're going to print it. And then we're going to write it to our file. So if we run this and see what happens, we can see that we have created the file. If we go over to here, we can see that we have test CSV, even though the program's still running. Then we can put in Jake, put in my age, say, I don't need green, I like green. Then we can put in Sammy, 4, she likes gray, she's a dog. Let's put in Santa, it's about 10,000 years old, 100,000 years old, probably red, but who knows. Now if we enter Q into any of these, we can basically just exit because we've entered Q into any of these, so we're breaking out of this loop. And then we've closed the file. Now we have our test CSV here now. So if we go ahead and open this file, and if we use this this extension I downloaded to actually preview these CSVs, which is basically just like a spreadsheet, then we can click this open preview, and we can see that we have name, age, favorite color, and Jake 30 green, Sammy 4 gray, Santa 100,000 red. So now we've just created our own CSV, and we can add in as many things as we want. Pretty cool. That is files. I hope that makes sense and you learned something. If you have any questions about files, please leave a comment down below, and I will happily respond. And yeah, let me know like if you've done anything cool with files, or if you've played around with this, what was something you learned about it. Again, it can be pretty powerful and do some pretty cool stuff with it. So yeah, let me know. If you're down there leaving a comment, please feel free to like and subscribe. It helps out the channel, helps us grow. And yeah, I think that's it. In the next video, we're going to go over pip, which allows us to bring in packages from outside of Python and basically new classes and stuff like that we haven't created ourselves, which can be really awesome and really easy to make things really easy. And then we're going to do some API work, and then we're going to make a really simple game. So it should be pretty fun, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, remember, never stop learning. Cheers.